Sonia and Rauru, the founders and first king and queen of Hyrule. A marriage not just of two beautiful souls, but of two different cultures. Sonia being of the Hylian race, the pointy-eared humans who serve and worship goddess Hylia, and Rauru being a Zonai, humanoid beings with long animal-like faces and ears, who descended from the sky and were seen as almost godlike with their intense powers shown in their technology and abilities. These two governed their people with grace and dignity. They were quite loved by those they ruled. We know this and more due to the stone tablets Wordsworth translates in the side adventure Messages from an Ancient Era. These tablets were sent into the skies and left behind by Minaru, older sister of the king. Their kingdom prospered as they worked together to bring about the best in each other. Sonia was not afraid to call out Rauru when needed, while at the same time still respecting his role as king. Likewise, Rauru was keen to listen to his queen and understand the wisdom she had to offer. Their unity was reflected in the beauty of their growing kingdom. But tragedy would soon strike as the malevolent intentions of the Gerudo king Ganondorf came to fruition. The murder of sweet Sonia, the theft of her secret stone and its corruption by the Demon King, and the loss of Rauru as he bravely sealed away Ganondorf, costing the Zonai his life. And Hyrule was thus left without their leaders. Thankfully, all hope was not lost as the distant descendant of the monarchy had been transported back in time to this era shortly before these events, Princess Zelda. Smart, kind, wise, and brave, the princess wasted no time in putting her skills and powers to use, advising her ruler ancestors where she could, and even sacrificing herself for the sake of the Master Sword, the weapon she knew in the hands of her noble swordsman Link, who lay in wait in the future, would destroy the Demon King for good. But the tragedy still remains. With the king, queen, and princess of the future gone, who would rule this newly founded kingdom? Minaru had also lost her life, leaving no one of blood relation. Well, no one that we know of. Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice, and today I want to discuss a question that has been plaguing my mind concerning Tears of the Kingdom. To be sure, there are plenty of overall lore-related questions I have, but concerning just the story of Tears of the Kingdom, this one ranks pretty high. And that is, why was there absolutely no mention of a child between Rauru and Sonia? Let's look into that. The first response one might propose is that they did not have children. Perhaps they would have if the tide of events had not turned so sour, but it was not the case. This is an understandable suggestion, as one would imagine that any children they had prior to Zelda arriving there would have been shown in-game. Another, albeit far more complicated suggestion is that they did have children, but in another timeline. One where Zelda didn't transport to their era via the virtue of the secret stone she picked up before she fell. Hence why she can and does exist, but we'll get to her relation to them later. Debunking the second suggestion is quite easy, which is not usually the case for time-related issues. The events from the first king and queen all the way through to Tears of the Kingdom always happened. Always. It's cyclical. For proof, you need not look any further than the beginning of the game. When Zelda and Link unintentionally stumble upon Ganondorf and the seal is broken, he speaks both of their names with recognition. Zelda from having seen her in the past with the other sages as well as the king and queen, and Link because of the epic moment when Rauru seals him and specifically tells him not to forget the name of Link. Now one might try to point to the memory A King's Duty as proof against this, noting that Rauru says what Zelda is discussing occurred in a time when she had not gone back to their era. However, this simply does not hold up against the overwhelming evidence we have from the start of the game. Not to mention that Rauru does not have all of the details. He does not know that both Zelda and Link's name were mentioned by the sealed Demon King, so I do not believe this line holds much water. Henceforth, the events of the past, somehow, always transpired the way we know them to be. As for the first suggestion that they did not have children, This is impossible, especially when you consider my previous statement about the fact that the timeline of Tears of the Kingdom is cyclical and always occurred that way. Otherwise, how would Zelda even exist? You cannot argue that maybe a relative of Sonia's took up the throne, and it's from their bloodline that we get our princess. The reason being because Zelda not only possesses Sonia's time ability, but also Rauru's light power. What is Sonia's power anyway? My guess is, aside from her time abilities enhanced by her secret stone, she probably possesses whatever sealing ability is always passed down in the royal bloodline, that is, the bloodline of the goddess. Because yes, as logic would dictate based on what we know from other Zelda games, she is a descendant of Skyward Sword Zelda. I believe this to be true also as shown in Memory Number 6, the Gerudo Assault, where all three combine their abilities to wipe out the horde of Moldugas. That didn't look like just time powers to me, but either way, even if it is, she has powers no other Hylian has, because we know the secret stones can only enhance a power that was already there. Again, reiterating her relation to the goddess incarnate we know from Skyward Sword. All this to say, even if it is just a time ability, Zelda bears this same ability, only passed down through the royal goddess bloodline. But what about Rauru? In Memory Number 4, titled An Unfamiliar World, Sonia states that she senses both the light power of her husband as well as her own time manipulation ability within Zelda. She even says that they will tell the others that she is a distant relative of theirs, which is true after all. Going back to the Molduga scene, it's clear that Zelda's abilities are far stronger than they realized. Perhaps because she has both of theirs through blood inheritance? I think so. Now I understand there are loads of other questions, and this is due to the nature of lore within the Zelda series. It's not always consistent, and we tend to have to fight to make aspects of it work. But I don't mind this. But for the sake of this video and my brain, let's go back to sticking with just the story of Tears of the Kingdom that we have. Because if you do, Zelda, clear as day, is a direct descendant of Rauru and Sonia, and therefore they must have had a child. So Rauru and Sonia have offspring. They had to for Zelda to exist as a direct blood descendant who shares both of their powers. Where are they? Are there multiple? Just one? Boy or girl? While I feel confident that the two definitely had a child, everything else is pure speculation. So here is my speculative guess. And by the way, I understand there might be questions concerning the fact that these are two different creatures and therefore it's questionable whether they could have children together, but I'll just say this. They're both humanoid creatures, and the game's own story demands that Zelda is a direct descendant of their combined DNA, so we kind of just have to accept that it is possible. Let's say the king and queen had one child, though they would have loved to have brought more into the world had it not been for their untimely passing. Perhaps a girl, toddler age, maybe a bit older since it seems like they're in their early 30s by the time Zelda meets them. And there's two major reasons why we would not see this child. First, with the increasing danger of Ganondorf, their daughter was kept away with caretakers for the sake of her safety. But Zelda probably would have met her, would she not? Unless where she was taken was incredibly far, I would think so. So why didn't that appear in any of the Dragon Tears? Because that interaction didn't hold any plot devices, nothing relevant to Link's task. Though I'm sure this child would come up in conversation when Zelda talks about Link about the many wonderful people she met. Yet still, another final question. What happened to this child after becoming orphaned? My guess is her caretakers continue to raise her and prepare her to assume the throne once she is of age. Until then, perhaps a trusted relative of Sonia's, since Minoru and Rauru were the last of their kind, would rule in the interim. To summarize, and do so somewhat redundantly, yes, Sonia and Rauru must have had a child in order for Zelda to be the direct blood descendant who possesses both of their powers. That child was most likely kept far away from danger, raised by trusted caretakers appointed by her late parents prior to their passing, and one day assumed the throne, putting the care of Hyrule back in the hands of those who share the blood of the goddess Hylia. Thank you all for watching this little theory video. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. In fact, doing that as well as giving the video a thumbs up goes a long way in helping the channel out. And of course, subscribing to the Geekdom. If you're new around here, I don't just make videos, I live stream fairly often as well. Of course, huge shout out and thank you to all of my channel members and patrons, especially those in the Hylian Knight tier, Joking Batman, Geek Mom, Lorulian Sheep, Charles, and McToppler. You guys are the best. But anyway, that's all for today. Thank you for watching.